If you ask me, this swinging of the pendulum makes perfect sense. It's like Newton's law: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We saw the first action being that major surge in demand, and now the pendulum is swinging back, rather violently, to a surge in supply. Hey everybody, what's up from Pokemon Classics, reminding you that the classics never go out of style. You know, these last few years have been characterized by extreme market volatility, with the pendulum swinging to over-exuberance with everybody clamoring for collectibles, and then back the other direction as we've seen a pretty severe market correction, especially in the last year or so. So what comes next? That's the question we're seeking to explore in this video. Now, admittedly, this is entirely speculative on my part, but as somebody that's lived through these types of cycles in the past, and just taking a look at some of the factors that are aligning this year in 2022, I think we might see a market reversal not too far in the future, maybe about 2023. Now again, who knows what's going to happen? Nobody has the crystal ball, but I do think that there's some interesting factors to break down here. Anyway, guys, I invite you to join me, Pokemon Classics, as we take a look at the market breakdown, and hopefully we can uncover the truth of Pokemon in 2022. Now, before we look to the future, let's redirect that attention to the past to see how we got here in the first place. 2020 saw the convergence of a number of factors that I like to call the perfect storm for Pokemon cards. Now, this included media hype that was unprecedented, driven by celebrity influencers entering the market, as well as Pokemon's 25th anniversary celebration. On top of this, we experienced the pandemic lockdowns, forcing people at home and boosting their income with the additional stimulus checks that were issued throughout the year. Finally, all of this demand created an unprecedented scarcity of cards, with everybody clamoring, looking for cards to buy, and just simply not having enough supply to meet that demand. 2020 was a rough year, but as a result, prices were boosting to levels we've never seen at a rate quicker than ever before. Inevitably, though, the pendulum always swings back. And that's what we saw in 2021, as the previous scarcity of 2020 was met with unprecedented saturation the following year. With hundreds of thousands of cards hitting the market at roughly the same time, sellers were forced to liquidate collections for significantly less profit and sometimes losses that they weren't expecting. And so, as a result of all of this undercutting of prices, the additional competition, the saturation, Pokemon has been in a free fall for much of 2021 coming into 2022. However, it's not all doom and gloom, and while these may be merely my own personal speculations, today I'm going to offer you 3 reasons why I think the Pokemon market may be setting up for a reversal in the not too distant future. Now, the first of these is saturation being temporary. What we're currently seeing is a flood of cards entering the market all at once, with people looking to liquidate. However, this is likely due to the backlogs of graded card companies and people looking to exit the market. Often, these types of situations are temporary. Similarly, the existing market sentiment, with people rushing to liquidate collections, undercutting each other's prices, is also likely temporary, as a number of sellers are looking to exit the market completely. Finally, what I'm expecting to see is a consolidation phase where a number of collectors and long-term hobbyists look to buy cards and hold for the long term, taking quite a bit of product off the market and into the hands of serious long-term collectors. Now, I'm not saying that prices are going to soar to all-time record heights, because I'm really not expecting that to happen. But as we've seen in the past after these phases of initial euphoria, is eventually a state of equilibrium is reached and normalcy resumes. And what's been normal for the Pokemon market is strong, stable, steady growth over time, not this type of really wild volatility that we've seen in the last 2 years. 2021 saw record saturation, as bulk orders across the world returning from grading services en masse. We've probably all seen videos from Graded Gem and other submission services handling tens of thousands of cards and sending them back to their original owners a year later. In fact, by PSA's own website, they've graded over 7.6 million cards and shipped them back just in 2021. Now, in all fairness, Pokemon is likely just a small fraction of these, but that's just one metric to indicate how many cards, the total volume, that's returning to the market at roughly the same time, many of these cards with the specific intention of reselling. Now, this has also led to record reselling on platforms like eBay, unlike what we've ever seen before. In fact, today, if you do a search for Pokemon PSA, you'll find over 140,000 items currently listed on eBay. This is heavily saturating the market and leading to price undercutting that is also unprecedented. Perhaps this is one of the many factors driving lower and lower prices, as everybody's looking to cash out and get out of the market while they still can. If you ask me, this swinging of the pendulum makes perfect sense. It's like Newton's law: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We saw the first action being that major surge in demand, and now the pendulum is swinging back, rather violently, to a surge in supply. However, in both situations, I feel like there are certain cards that haven't been properly evaluated and just caught up in the overall market inertia. You look at items like the first edition Jungle Commons that were way overvalued during that initial surge in demand, and now as we're swinging back the other direction, there are likely items that have strong fundamentals that are overcorrecting, items that are scarce, that are in the top condition, items that don't come up for sale very often, that are falling as the market falls. One factor that no one in the Pokemon community has experienced, including those of us that have been here for a while, is how the new paradigm of grading cards will affect their overall availability and their cost. Two of these factors include the accessibility of grading and the cost of grading, both of which have fundamentally shifted, and it's to be determined whether or not they'll ever shift back to what used to be the status quo. Now, when it comes to accessibility, long wait times have characterized grading cards for the better part of 2 years, and where it used to take maybe a month or two to get your cards back, now that's been a year, sometimes longer. The other question is, how much is it going to cost? Currently on PSA's website, the lowest price they have available is the regular service, costing about $100 per card. Now, this is a far cry from what used to be the value service of sometimes under $10, maybe even under $8 per card. And if those prices stay and the lower value and bulk services never return, that could fundamentally change which cards get sent to grading and how much those cards are going to cost in that lower end of the Pokemon market. You got to account for fees, grading costs, and time, and that's something that, again, is yet to be determined. Another factor to take into consideration is market sentiment, and consumer psychology is such a powerful force driving these market cycles. However, I think it's worth mentioning that regardless of where we're at in these cycles, there's always opportunities for collectors and investors to capitalize. Currently, we're in a bear market. We've been on the downtrend for a while throughout 2021 and going into 2022 with massive supply and people eager to liquidate that supply as quickly as possible. I think it would be safe to say that over the last 6 months or so, fear, desperation, in some cases panic, may characterize much of the market. And why not? With so many entering collectors and flippers that are now being hit really hard in a number of different fronts, I can understand why people are pessimistic. For many of these individuals, they were priced in at the top of the market, making their purchase, sending their cards to PSA, looking to capitalize on the current mania of Pokemon. However, rather than capitalizing on it, they were met with delays, in some cases waiting over a year to get their cards back. During that time, prices began falling, and for many of these individuals, rather than achieving expected gains on their purchases, they're now realizing losses, with those losses compounding by the day as the market continues to retract itself. Many of these individuals are willing to sell and are now selling their cards at significantly less than what was expected, and now with the addition of new tax reporting laws on top of that, many of these individuals will also be facing the unexpected cost of paying taxes at the end of the year. Now, I won't go into too much detail on this since I've already made an entirely separate video on this subject, but just to summarize, if you do over $600 in sales on any online platform, the IRS is now requiring that platform to send both you and the IRS a 1099-K for reporting that income on your taxes. This means sellers that have traditionally gone under the radar won't be able to do so anymore. It also means that those that weren't expecting to pay taxes might unexpectedly get hit with an additional tax bill come the end of the year. If you guys want to learn more about that tax reporting change and the issuance of 1099-Ks, I'll leave a link for it down in the description below. Anyway, suffice it to say that with the unexpected losses a lot of sellers are going to be experiencing, and the unexpected cost of taxes, and the difficulty of liquidity with more competition entering the market all at once and all the price undercutting, I think it's likely that a seller exodus is coming to platforms like eBay, where a number of first-time and smaller sellers just throw up their hands in frustration and say, this isn't worth it, sell off their collections and leave. For large sellers, this won't be as much of an issue because generally large sellers also happen to be established collectors and are more diversified in what they're collecting and buying. They're already paying taxes, so this won't come as much of a surprise to those larger sellers, and for many of them, they don't mind holding cards for a while waiting for the market to improve. There's opportunity here for consolidation, and I think the factors are kind of merging together in that direction as we look to achieve some equilibrium in the hobby. So what might this consolidation phase look like? Well, again, this is merely my own speculation, but I think we're going to see a number of short-term collectors and flippers immediately liquidating their collections and exiting the market. We'll see a sell-off, but those cards have to move somewhere, and that's where the consolidation begins at the hands of long-term collectors and established businesses. Now, these collectors and businesses have a distinct advantage in the terms of knowledge and experience they have in the hobby. They know how to properly appraise cards, how to focus on fundamentals like rarity, scarcity, condition, popularity. The historical value of the cards will likely see long-term potential in some cards that others wouldn't. As is often the case in life, education presents opportunity, and patience can often lead to reward. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that we've experienced this cycle numerous times in the past, most recently in 2016 with the Pokemon Go boom. Similar to 2021, this was a time that was also spent celebrating Pokemon's anniversary, this time the 20th anniversary. However, also similar to 2021, there was unprecedented media attention, hype, celebrations, product releases, news articles, and of course, the worldwide phenomenon of Pokemon Go turning everybody's attention back to the Pokemon franchise. This was a massive growth in popularity, and prices reflected that. In the latter half of 2016, prices exploded, before significantly retracing for the next couple of years in 2017 and 2018. In fact, I'll never forget reading and participating in the conversations on E4 about the Pokemon Go bubble and speculating on whether Pokemon prices would ever reach their all-time highs again that they saw in 2016. Now, the truth is, it only took till 2018 for most of those prices to return back to those all-time highs and then continue steady growth to actually exceed those highs. In fact, that steady linear growth was seen through much of 2018, 2019, and 2020 before this next major Pokemon explosion with the 25th anniversary. Now, obviously, these situations aren't entirely synonymous, but I do think that eventually the Pokemon market has shown resilience and has shown that once the pendulum swings violently and swings back violently, eventually an equilibrium is reached before returning back to its regular, boring trajectory of steady linear growth. And that's what I'm expecting to see. In short, nobody can tell you what the market is going to do next. It's not like we're sitting here with crystal balls looking into the future. At least, that's not a superpower that I possess. However, I do think there are some indicators and some past precedents that maybe apply here, signifying a potential shift into market equilibrium and a more stable, sustainable future for the Pokemon card hobby. With the massive saturation that we're currently seeing in the market is likely temporary due to the backlogs currently at PSA and returning from other grading sites as well. Similarly, the market sentiment that we're seeing right now seems a bit overreactionary in my personal opinion, providing some opportunities to buy and consolidate collections for future sales and future growth. Now, there's always opportunities regardless of what the market is like. And I think the big picture here is we sometimes need to pull back and look at the market as a whole rather than overreacting to the smaller trends that are immediately in front of us. Anyway, guys, education matters, fundamentals matters. I encourage you all to do your own research, to look into what it is that you love about the hobby, and collect for the pure joy of collecting. Usually those that are looking to make maximum short-term profit aren't going to be around long enough to enjoy the hobby, but also to experience on those changes of trends that we're speculating about in this video. I love collecting. I love the community. I love the cards. Whether or not they're at all-time record highs or record lows, I'm still going to appreciate some Pokemon. Anyway, guys, I'm Pokemon Classics. Thanks for sticking around for this video. And I guess we'll sign off with the classics never go out of style. Stay well, everyone. Enjoy life. Have fun collecting. Bye, everybody.